Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again. It's going to be a full video review on the Galaxy S10. So let's get right into it. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, you would know that I separate my reviews into 6 separate categories with timestamps, so you can skip to a specific area of interest just in case you didn't want to sit through my entire review. My 6 categories are number 1, the overall design, build quality, and display. Number 2 is going to go over the specifications and the overall performance in everyday use. Number 3 is going to be the key feature of the device, basically what separates it from other devices on the market. Number 4, the cameras. Number 5, which is one of my personal favorite categories, the battery life. And number 6 being the overall verdict on if you should actually buy this phone or stay away from it. So, moving on to our first category, let's look at the overall design, build quality, and display. Once again, Samsung has outdone themselves with their design of the Galaxy S10, and that it's one of the few phones that actually feel like it's worth the $1,000 price tag, just by its looks and feel and hand alone. Now mine here is the Prism Blue model. You can choose from many other different colors on the market, including Prism White, Prism Black, Prism Green, Canary Yellow, and Flamingo Pink. The curved glass on the sides, the all-glass back, and the beautiful 6-inch AMOLED display all make a return in this year's model. However, they have made some major changes in the camera department. They added a fingerprint scanner now underneath the front display, and in the front camera, which is now just a hole punch to the top of the display, instead of that nasty looking notch that we're seeing in so many new phones today. Now personally, I love the design choice, and it basically kills all the competition with their ugly notches. However, I wasn't a huge fan of the pill-shaped hole punch on the plus-size models of the S10, but I am in love with this design, and it basically disappears only after a few minutes of use. Plus, you can actually hide it behind really clever wallpapers that I have a few examples here. The display is a 6-inch AMOLED panel at 1440 by 3040 pixels with a pixel density of 550 pixels per inch. And protecting it is a strong layer of Corning Gorilla Glass 6. It's a Samsung display, so automatically it's going to be extremely saturated, bright, and gorgeous. And yes, this display has all of those and then some. Now my favorite part of the display has just got to be how damn bright this thing gets. It's actually pretty ridiculous, and especially for outdoor viewing. We also have a built-in fingerprint scanner now underneath the front display, which still makes it feel like a secret agent living in the future every time I use it to unlock my phone. However, it works about 80% of the time, so it's definitely not as accurate as your regular fingerprint scanner that was on the back or the sides of your phone. But just the sheer amount of tech that has gone into this more than makes up for it in my opinion. Now as for the build quality and design, it feels very premium with a nice heft and weight, while still continuing to stay slim enough to not be a burden in your pocket. The all-glass design is nice on the eyes, but once again, it is a fingerprint magnet and it can become an issue when it comes to durability. So definitely get a case. I would say that's definitely recommended with these kind of phones. And also going around the device, we can start by looking at the bottom, where we have the return of the headphone jack. Once again, thank you Samsung for actually listening to your customers. The USB-C port and the speaker grill for the bottom firing speaker. Now there is actually dual speakers essentially on this device, where when you're listening to sound, you will get sound coming from the top speaker as well as the bottom. So it does add a stereo sound effect, even though sadly it is still bottom firing and it can be covered pretty easily. And then we just have a bottom firing microphone for phone calls. And then going to the left, we have the dreaded Bixby button, which actually can be reprogrammed this time around to be really anything that you would like it to be, like a camera shutter button or just opening a specific app. The only downside is you can't set it to a different assistant. So if you're like me and you use Google Assistant, you cannot select that option for this button, which kind of stinks. So again, thanks Samsung. And then we also have the volume rocker, as always. And then going to the top here, we just have the SIM ejection tool, which also has expandable memory inside of it for a micro SD card up to 1 terabyte in size, as well as another microphone for video recording. And then lastly, moving to the right side, we have the power switch up here, which is technically a little bit too high for my liking. I wish it was more in the middle of the device, but overall, not too big of a deal. Now moving on, let's talk about the specifications and overall performance in everyday use. I want to start this off with getting this tech specs out of the way. So we are rocking a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 CPU with Adreno 640 graphics and 8GB of internal RAM, which is freaking amazing. Now my device here is the 128GB model, but you can also get a 512GB model, even though both have expandable memory, which is up to 1 terabyte of internal storage, like I stated earlier. We also have the regular communication bands with the Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi 802.11, NFC, and a 3,400 milliamp hour battery. When it comes to everyday performance, this phone is by far the best performer I've ever used, and I'm not saying that with a grain of salt. Even after 2 months of constant use as my only daily device, it has never slowed down, never lagged, never had an app crash, and animations still feel as fluid as day one. I have owned many Samsung Galaxy phones over the years, including the Galaxy S6, S7, Note 6, Note 8, and the Note 9, and this is still by far the only Samsung phone that has not slowed down and started to lag after a few weeks of heavy use. Now personally, I've never been a fan of Samsung software, but they have finally hit the perfect sweet spot of little to no bloatware, snappy and slick animations, and without getting rid of extra features that Samsung phones are actually known for. Now speaking of features, there's a lot to talk about here, so I'm going to keep it as simple as I can so this review isn't over 40 minutes long. Now first things first, Samsung UI has actually added a nice feature including an all dark theme mode, which I am in love with. So actually everything here from the notification shade into the overall settings, so if we go up here, you can see it's all in a dark mode, which is really, really nice on the eyes, let alone the battery as well. It also moves over into your messaging, which is pretty cool, your contact screen. Pretty much everything that Samsung utilizes in their software, it now essentially has a dark theme, which is really cool. I'm really happy that they finally added that to Samsung's UI. Next, we have the curved edge features where you can hide favorite contacts. You can actually have a compass, you can have a ruler, a level, music controls, and so much more all on the inside of your edge display, which is pretty cool. I mostly use this just for the contacts, so you can swipe over and boom, go into your contacts and text them or call them right from there, which is really useful. And you can turn this off in the settings if you ever, I guess, never need to use this. Another nice feature is the always on display. And the reason for this is so that you can always see your time, your notifications, or any other useful information just at a glance without having to turn on your display and waste more battery. Now, I personally do not use this just because, yes, it technically does use more battery life if you're never really looking at your phone anyway, or if you're like me and you have a Galaxy Watch and you have this for all your notifications, there's really no need to have the always on display there, but it is a really cool and useful feature for most people. Now, the last feature I'm going to get into is the wireless power share feature. When I first heard about this feature, in that you can wirelessly transfer power from your device to other phones, your headphones, or any other device that supports wireless charging, I thought it was honestly going to be a huge gimmick and I would never use it. Now, just last week, I ate my own words in that I went on a vacation and I actually had forgotten my Samsung Galaxy Watch charger. I had no way to charge it, and I actually was able to charge it while I was away from home for an entire week just by using this feature. And sure enough, I tried it out and it worked right away. I was able to charge it up, my watch overnight, just by using my S10, so my watch had a full charge throughout the day. And just in case you were wondering, yes, you can use the power share feature while your S10 is charging, so you don't have to worry about losing all your battery from your phone while charging other devices. Honestly, the only complaints I have about the feature is you have to lay the device you want to charge on the back of your S10 in a very specific spot, and it cannot move at all or it will disconnect. And the other little gripe I have about it is very slow at charging, and truly you should only be using this feature in emergency situations such as my example, because I feel like it might not be too good on the hardware or the battery over time if you do that constantly. These are only scratching the surface of the amount of features that the Galaxy S10 has in store, however, but for now on, let's just move on to the cameras. Now, the Galaxy S10 is very unique when talking about the cameras. Yes, we have a hole punch in the front display for the front camera, but the actual lens is nothing really special. Don't get me wrong, it is a 10 megapixel wide-angle lens that takes great selfies, but it's nothing compared to the rear set of shooters, which now that we're talking about them, the rear cameras now have three, that's right, count them, three lenses, including one ultra wide-angle lens, which I am honestly in love with. The main lens is a 12 megapixel with an aperture of 1.5 to 2.4 and an optical stabilization. Another amazing feature of this lens is that it has motorized aperture shutter, which I have never seen on a smartphone before. Second, we have another 12 megapixel telephoto lens for taking portrait pictures and being able to blur out the background to make very interesting candid shots. And lastly, we have the amazing ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera lens that is a must-have for taking any type of scenery photography, and I have been blown away with the results of the shots from this ultra-wide camera lens. And after having a wide-angle lens on a smartphone, I honestly can never go back to not having one. So I just hope that other manufacturers will follow in Samsung's footsteps to include one with all feature devices. When it comes to picture quality, all images are incredibly detailed, a bit over-sharpened at times, but otherwise just fine, and even overkill if you're just using them for social media. My only complaint would be that some pictures seem to be a little bit oversaturated, but that's kind of how Samsung devices have always been. By default, but otherwise they all look excellent, and same goes for the video quality. Alright, this is video footage recorded with the Galaxy S10. This is just the regular S10, not the Plus. This is with image stabilization turned on. That's software stabilization, by the way. If you can tell, I'm out of breath. It's a long hike to get up here. This is Taylor's Falls, Minnesota, in case anybody was wondering. One of the highest peaks that you can make it to. As you can tell, I'm standing on a ledge right now. People driving by probably think some bad thoughts right now, but that is not the case as to why I'm here. So yeah, that is video quality, audio quality on the Samsung Galaxy S10. The camera app itself has actually been improved for more ease of use over just throwing manual features at your face, and I really enjoy this change. Now you do get different scenes by swiping left or right, or if you're in landscape mode like this, you swipe up and down, which is a really nice and intuitive design. And if we're going all the way from left to right here, we have a scene for Instagram, we have a scene for food, a scene for panorama, we have a scene for pro mode, which has all of your manual and really any type of setting you would ever need for photography. And then we have live focus, which essentially just uses that third telephoto lens to use the background so you can blur it out while taking the picture, which is pretty nice. Then we have regular photo mode, which uses any of the three lenses that you can see here. You can switch between them, so you can go right to the wide angle, as you can see here, the main, and then we have the telephoto. So pretty awesome that you can switch between the three right in the regular photo mode. Then we have video, which actually can record in 4K at 60 FPS, 1080p at 60 FPS, or at 30 FPS. Next, we have super slow motion, which is 720p at 960 frames per second, which is just ridiculous. And then next we have regular slow motion, which is 1080p, so much better resolution at 240 frames per second. So much slower slow motion, but still looks very good. And lastly, we have hyperlapse mode, which all works really extremely well. I haven't had much time to really play around with this too much, but from what I've seen online, it works extremely well just for a built-in camera on a smartphone. All right, next, let's get into my personal favorite category, which is battery life. Again, we only have a 3,400 milliamp hour battery, which compared to other devices on the market can sound kind of small, but even with my medium to heavy usage every single day, I still was able to get through an entire day with the remaining 26% of battery life before having to put it on charge before bed. I usually would get about 5 to almost 6 hours of screen on time with medium brightness on throughout the day. So overall, I'd say battery life is actually pretty good, if not great, compared to other devices I've tried in the past few months. Now, the best battery life I've ever had on a phone to this day was still the Galaxy Note 9, which normally I would get anywhere from 6 to almost 7 hours of screen on time with medium, I guess, to higher brightness. But for what it is, this phone actually has pretty excellent battery life if you're just using it as a moderate or regular user throughout the day. All right, so now the final category, which is the overall verdict. Should you buy the phone or should you stay away from it? Now, before I give a definitive answer, I have to say one thing. If you are willing to shovel out $1,000 for a smartphone or are willing to sign up for a contract to pay every month until you pay off the $1,000 debt, then yes, this should be the phone you spend your money on without a doubt. However, I still feel there are excellent offers out there for much better prices if you aren't able to spend that amount of coin on a new phone. Samsung even has a cheaper alternative to the S10 called the S10e, which retails for $750, brand new. So much better pricing. It does obviously skimp on some of the features, like the cameras aren't as good, the internals obviously aren't as good, it's a bit smaller design. But if you're willing to take those sacrifices, that still would be an excellent buy for $750. Otherwise, again, if you are willing to shovel out $1,000, this is the phone you should be doing it on. This is an excellent device, probably one of my favorite smartphones I've ever owned, and still after 2 months of continuous use, I have yet to have really any gripes with it whatsoever. So, thank you guys so much for watching my full video review on the Galaxy S10. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like to show your support. If you have any questions or comments, I will get to them as fast as I can in the comment section below. Hope you subscribe to see you next time, and we'll see you then. Peace.